Okay, here we are again. The well-known, undisputed Harley Smith and the organic mechanic. And I was thinking this morning we'll just kind of get together and talk about maybe some crazy experiences we've seen or some crazy plants that we've grown in an indoor growing environment, and just kind of have fun with it today. Share some of those stories because it creates some interesting conversation. What do you think?
Sounds like fun. Good plan.
There's um, just a little project I was involved in is we did a very large indoor greenhouse acreage of dwarf banana plants that
Oh,
yeah, we bought the clones and planted them. Took about 6 months to produce the fruit, but that was quite an experience to create a tropical environment in a greenhouse where it's below zero 3 months out of the year. And really didn't know what we were doing. Had some ideas, did a little research, and that was a fun project. Just seeing something that's so different than what we're used to growing, or nutrient management wise, or things like that. And what I learned from that experience is, boy, you can't kill those plants. Musa plants, a musa or the banana tree or whatever you want to call it. Boy, they are hungry plants, and we did a lot of experimentation on under fertilizing, over fertilizing, and do you know what? You can't kill those things. Um, it was a great challenge keeping the humidity and the temperatures the way we needed it. But by the end, Harley, when the flowers come out of those banana plants, it's the most beautiful flower I've ever seen. And it
hmm.
opens up, and all these little fingers of these mini bananas pop out. And just being able to experience that and be a part of it and watching it and then tasting it,
Hmm.
that that is what opened my eyes. The taste of it. It had a creamy, almost like a slight, a creamy orange aftertaste. They were dwarf Cavendish bananas, and I will never forget how good those taste, fresh off the stalk. Just incredible, incredible. And a lot of people told us it couldn't be done, but we pulled it off. And the client was able to sell them at his local farmers market, and he was very excited. And one thing we learned is once we get those started, they start having stalks, and different shoots that come up, and you can't stop them. You cannot stop them. It took a lot to clear that out of that space when we were finished. But very interesting experience. I hope people get a chance to do crazy things like that because it was fun.
Yeah,
How about
yeah.
yourself?
Well, speaking of bananas, I heard a story years ago. We were talking about pH and EC, right? Early in the old days, just some basics of hydroponics. And I remember uh, Jeff Gibson, who was one of my teachers back then, he was saying, sometimes people just by trial and error, if they really don't know what they're doing, they can get some incredible results. And he used the example of bananas, where
No way.
someone was growing hydroponic bananas and they didn't know what they were doing and they had very high EC. And they said, any of us would go at that high of EC, that's going to kill the plant for sure. And it didn't. What it did was they had smaller bananas, but they were just loaded with sugar. And that was part of what we learned about. There's a direct proportional relationship between EC and sugar content in the fruit. It creates a stress. There's less water uptake, less growth of the fruit, but more condensation of the sugars. So it was just one of these things where sometimes you get lucky when you're doing that. And bananas was one of those things that can, when you said you could give them high fertilizer and they were fine, that's probably what part of what was going on. And I know they love potassium. obviously.
Oh yeah.
Bananas are really high in potassium. So I bet the over fertilized, quote unquote, bananas were probably the sweetest. I'm just guessing on that.
Boy, you're probably right. When you mentioned that the high EC that would kill the other plants, what kind of numbers are you talking?
Oh man, I don't remember what he said, but it was, we're normally do like, what, 2.4 EC or something at the most, 2.7. We're looking at like double that, six, five, six, seven, maybe. You think, oh no, you can't do that. You'll fry them. Uh, Now we did try. I remember one time we tried doing tomatoes in the greenhouse, in a small greenhouse, and we said, "Oh yeah, let's do these like the Dutch do. Let's go with the higher EC, or like the Europeans do for the sweetness." But we had trouble with the heat in the summer. It was too much heat. Now, if you have heat stress and salt stress, not good. It doesn't. Then you start harming the plant, start getting blossom end rot, starts to scorch them. So it's not just, oh yeah, just pour on the EC and we'll get better results. No, you have to manage the stress, and EC is one way to do it.
Where were those bananas done that your teacher was telling you about?
They were done, well. He was telling me probably 28, 27, 28 years ago, maybe. So it was maybe 30. I don't know exactly when, maybe 30 years ago or longer.
Uh-huh.
It was in the
Uh-huh.
early days. Might have even been longer than that, earlier. But he used that in his example where, sometimes just because this is what we think is best, sometimes you can go out of the box. But then again, it's trial and error. If you go too far out of the box, you're rolling the dice. You could be asking for trouble.
What
I'll,
part of
I'll
the
tell you another
country
thing
was
with
that
that
in?
though. What?
What part of the country was that in? Where was it
Uh,
located?
well, he was telling me here in Michigan, but I don't know where. He didn't say where it was. I'm, I don't know. He didn't say what
Yeah.
part of the
What
country.
Anyway, when we started the process, just searching the internet, and this was a long time ago, but searching the internet, I found a gentleman in Canada that really wanted to do this commercially, and he
Hmm.
really got off to a good start. His drawback is, he told me, in the grocery store per pound, bananas are some of the lowest priced, fruits you can buy. And he was having a hard time getting a premium for his production there in Canada, even though they were fresh and local and good. He just couldn't get the price to cover his heating costs and the cost to grow them. But he successfully pulled it off as well. So very interesting to know that other people have tried this. I mean, that's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. I have another little story. That's not. I'll tell you what my crazy crop was in a little bit here, but um, I used to work with schools quite a bit with FFA programs, in fact, all over the country. But I went to my wife's class. She had a 2 bay greenhouse, really state of the art, zero runoff, Dutch computer controls. I mean, it was really, really good. Well, anyway, when I went in there to talk to the kids, I told them about EC. And I said, with hot peppers, if you raise the EC, it creates some stress. And then under the stress, the peppers make oils to protect themselves. And that's what gives the pepper the hot flavor, is the oils. So, you know, every student in there had to design, build, maintain their own system. They were doing different crops, recirculating systems, the whole 9 yards. Well, I came back months later just to see how they were doing. And a lot of great crops all over the place. Then I walked in the other bay, and there were these pepper plants. They were jalapeno peppers, and they looked like they were dead. I mean, the leaves were totally scorched, brown, falling off. I went, oh my God, what did they do? And the boys came in. I said, what did you do? They said, well, you told us to raise the EC. I said, yeah, but not so much that you kill the plant. He goes, Yeah, but you should taste these peppers. They were so hot. Jalapenos, they make poppers, nothing to it. There's jalapenos and there's jalapenos. Like from Texas or from Mexico. That's what these tasted like. And Sue told me the mechanics program next door, the big football players and all those guys was a tech center. The teacher told him, if you go over to Sue's greenhouse and you eat one of those peppers, I'll give you extra credit. And then of course, oh, I like hot stuff. I'll come over. And they ate one and they were like crying, running for water. I mean, it's hilarious. So that's another situation where, well, stress is good, healthy stress. Too much stress puts you in the hospital, and I don't really know if it's worth it to have a dead pepper plant and just a handful of peppers. But it's another example of something crazy that brought out what they were looking to do. They wanted to grow the hottest peppers in the state of Michigan. I guarantee you they were.
Wow, huh? That is that is crazy. And there are a lot of pepper grow offs too around the country.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of our customers are involved in that, and that's interesting. That's a pretty good tip maybe for some of these people that really want to, they have those heat measurements for their peppers. That may be a pretty good strategy.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because you think, oh, hydroponics, you're growing in water. Oh, the flavors are going to be weaker compared to, dark soil, rich soil. Actually, if you can control the stress at the root zone, it doesn't matter to the plant. It's just the way they take out nutrients and respond. It's the same. Now you could do it other ways, even in soil. I mean, you could use heat stress, like they would in Mexico, or
Hmm.
Texas. They
Hmm.
could do drought stress the same way, but it's harder to manage. If you overdo it with heat or drought, sometimes it's hard to bring them back. Where in hydroponics, you just take a measurement with EC and, okay, well, take it up another notch, take it up another notch until you find your limits.
That's good. That is great. That spurred a couple of thoughts that I have. We have a lot of customers too that do the giant pumpkins, and
Mm,
I'll tell you, some of these growers are the most creative. They
mm.
are the most dedicated fanatics, and
Fanatics, good word.
you talk about perfecting a process. Some of these gentlemen we work with, they have this dialed in like you cannot believe, and I mean, they've spent their life, trying to perfect the art. And the one common thing we get calls about or questions about is the soft fruit of the pumpkin as it's growing. It can't support its weight, and so for a beginner, for me and you, we kind of understand what's going on. But for a beginner, they got to remember. Let me back up. They treat this they treat a large area for the pumpkin, but a lot of times they apply nutrients like you would if it was hydroponic. You know,
Mm,
in certain areas of their square footage that they're growing in, and it seems like a lot of times the beginners that call us and have questions, they totally forget about the calcium. They totally
mm,
overlook the calcium. And you talk about a plant that you have to put calcium on like it's going out of style. It's some of those
mm-hmm.
giant pumpkins. And we've literally seen some of these giant pumpkins get big and then just deflate like a balloon. Just there's really soft bodied, thin bodied, and very delicate. And so, um, anyway, back to the story, seeing one of those giant pumpkins just kind of deflate like a balloon over time was incredible. I'd never seen anything like that before. They were taking time lapse pictures of it, and anyway, very important lesson. Don't overlook the calcium, even if you're growing outside in soil. These big fruits, just like the peppers, you create the heat. these pumpkins, you got to create the strong body to support all those weight on some of those things. So anyway, that's kind of some fun things I've been involved with over the years too. Those giant pumpkins, really fun.
Yeah. One year, I was invited to be the educational speaker for the Wisconsin Giant Pumpkin Growers Association.
No kidding.
But yeah, I was. They brought me in to talk mainly about biostimulants. They were, about some of your, basically your products, a lot of them, and how to use them. So I did a whole day. We did a morning session and an afternoon session for the whole group, and then they gave me some giant pumpkin seeds for
Yeah,
some of the ones that were really big. Uh, that was pretty cool. And I worked with one grower, pumpkin grower down in, where was it? Was in Wisconsin? It's Indiana, and he wanted to try hydroponics, hydroponic pumpkin. So I helped him with that. Talk about, you're right. They're crazy. These are crazier people than you and me. I mean, they are fanatical. This guy in Indiana, he literally put up 1,000-watt light outdoors to extend the light, with he built a special shade to protect you from the weather. What is he doing? And he ended up winning a big prize from the state of Indiana, and he sent me the clipping, and he said, "Yeah, I did hydroponic pumpkin with with the help of a Michigan man." That's all he said, with the Michigan man. I said, "Hey, that's me." So yeah, it was fun, and I think it's cool though with the amino acids, as I told the giant pumpkin growers, that aids with the uptake of calcium.
yeah.
Get better uptake of calcium, you're going to strengthen the plant, strengthen the vascular system, which means more water and nutrients are going to flow to the fruit. So they're going to get bigger. So anyway, yeah, I'm with you there. It's pretty cool. I did that just one year. I was invited to come back other years too, but one time was enough.
Yeah, it is fun to work with people that absolutely love what they're growing and
Yeah,
absolutely this it's almost like it's a lifestyle they live and it's so rewarding to be able to help some of your customers or friends or whoever achieve those results and there's never an end to it. There's never an end to it. Next year they're gonna push it further. They're gonna push it harder. They're gonna heat the soil in the winter so it stays active. They keep expanding and there's not going to be an end to it. Who knows, who knows what the top is when it comes to that. And yeah, I get a lot of fulfillment and enjoyment just talking with them about it, working with them about it. And some of those phone calls, you can be on the phone for hours. And anyway, I love it. That's a very good part of being in this industry and having that customer base and like always, when I get things I don't understand, I'll call my friend Harley, and he helps me out. So I appreciate that over the years.
Yeah. Well, of course, I learn from you too. That's why we're doing this together. We both have our own experiences. We have our own stories from people we've met along the way, and there's a accumulation of knowledge and wisdom that we can share, hopefully, with other people. That's one of the good things about getting older, is that I have more stories along the way. More, early on when I was a rookie, it was trial and error. Now, along the way, it's more and more trial and success. And then when you
Mm.
start to learn what works, you find and you know why, you can make it work better just by building on the experiences of the past. I'll tell you my story though. My crazy plant back years ago was Stevia rebaudiana, a sweet herb of Paraguay. Have you heard of that herb?
I have not.
Okay, it's super sweet and has no calories,
Yes,
and
okay,
it's from,
I know what that is. I beg
you
your
know what it
pardon.
is.
I misunderstood you.
Yeah, they're using a lot of that nowadays as a sort of, well, as a natural sweetener
Yes.
substitute. Okay, well, back in the day, I know there's a conspiracy theory here. I won't go into that, but back in the day, um, it was illegal to import and sell stevia, mainly because of the competition. You just like, have you ever heard of Monsanto Industries?
Let's see, once or
Uh,
twice.
Yeah, I know. That's rhetorical question. Well, back then, the head of the FDA was from was like a chief executive officer from Monsanto Industries, and they made this product called NutraSweet. And then all of a sudden, I mean, it's coincidence, just a coincidence, there was an anonymous complaint about the import of stevia. So the they were raiding the warehouses, taking it off the shelf. They were even confiscating cookbooks, stevia cookbooks back then. I mean, it's like,
Wow.
well, you know. So I thought, oh, this is interesting. What is this anyway? So I got hold of some seeds from the Netherlands, from stevia seeds. It was one of the first generation seeds. And I said, okay, I'll try these hydroponically, see if I can grow them. Well, I put them in with my herbs with a little bit on the higher nitrogen, low EC, higher nitrogen, like growing basil in the same containers, and I was burning them. Oh man, they don't. If this is low EC and I'm getting brown edges on the leaves, they don't like this nitrogen. So I started over, grew some more seeds, but I put them in their own system, and instead of using a grow nutrient, I used the bloom nutrient that was lower in nitrogen. And then when they got bigger in the summer, I did just a PK boost with no nitrogen in it. The plants grew 3 times bigger than what the seed packet said. Super sweet. You could take one of those leaves and just with your teeth, just barely take the smallest bite possible with the tip of your teeth, chew it up. It was just full of sweetness, and you could taste that for an hour afterwards. Um, Here's the funny thing. I read just a little while afterwards, NASA was experimenting with growing stevia for their mission to Mars.
Ah.
As just because you're not going to grow sugar cane in space, right? These are just plants, like
Hmm.
herbs. And their experiments failed. I wondered, was that political, the reason it failed, or was it because they didn't know what they were doing? But let me tell you, I learned by cutting back on nitrogen. And the reason I had the hint on that was when I saw it. The other was it's native to the Amambe mountain range on the between Paraguay and Brazil, and it's kind of on the edge of the rainforest in the mountains. So the rainforest rain just washes down year after year, washes out the nitrates very quickly.
Wow.
So those plants adapted to low nitrate nutrition, low nitrogen, just naturally. So when I created more of that environment with reducing and even eliminating nitrogen, they thrived. So there's my crazy story. I guess the end of the story is the kids in the greenhouse back then, Sue's greenhouse. One of them wanted to grow. When they heard the story, they wanted to grow stevia, and she was allowed to get advisors from outside. So she actually requested a lawyer to come to the
Wow.
school and work for them because they wanted to grow stevia um, and dry it and sell it. And at that time, it wasn't quote unquote legal, so they wanted to make sure that they were following the guidelines and reducing the risks. So anyway, that's funny. But then later on, now it's legal, generally regarded as safe. It's used everywhere.
Yeah, that's true.
I will say
That's
though
true.
that you have to use a very small amount. The tiny, I mean, literally, I would dry the leaves. I would put gloves on, and I would just go like this with my hands to grind it up, and then throw away the veins, and I could taste the sweetness in the air when I was
Wow.
doing it. You use too much, kind of has a bitter aftertaste. Just the tiniest amount, and it's perfect. That's my crazy story.
Boy, that is crazy. I can't believe it. And Sue's a professor as well, correct? Yeah.
Sue is, yeah, well, she has a master's degree in agriculture education, and she did her master's thesis on hydroponics as an industry. And she had, I would say, I don't think I'm exaggerating, but I think she had the most advanced hydroponics teaching greenhouse in the United States when she was teaching toward the end there.
Boy, you talk about living the life you guys preach. I mean, holy cow. Yeah, that's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. I don't know if I can top that stevia story. Indoor pineapple
Mm,
production. Very lengthy process. I don't know how that turned out, but I actually did see some indoor pineapple plants from one of our customers and friends. I'm not exactly how that turned out, but anyway, that's another crazy thing I've seen indoors. So who knows what the limits are, what we can
Yeah.
accomplish.
The craziest thing I've seen from a customer, used to call him Howard Hughes. It was this very, very rich guy who made his money in the stock market. He was an older gentleman, but during the 80s, he was one of the first ones to do the computerized, trading and all that stuff. Just, multimillionaire. And he wanted to grow lemon trees indoors at his house. And he even came in one day and said, "Oh, I saw this advertisement for an automatic dosing machine for nutrients and pH." I said, "Well, that's for a whole greenhouse." He says, "Yeah, I want one for one for each of my lemon trees." I just laughed. I said, "Well, that would be extravagantly expensive to do that. It's like $3,500 each, right? Just to dose the one plant." And he just said, "Oh, that's okay." But anyway, he was so funny. He was did his indoor lemon trees. He came in, and one morning he came in. He said, "Harley, I harvested 11 lemon lemons from my lemon tree, and I made a lemon pie." And he was just grinning ear to ear. And I didn't say this, but I thought, that is the most expensive lemon pie in the world. But it made him happy. So if it
Oh,
makes you happy, if you're fanatical, but it makes you happy and improves the quality of life, who am I to judge? you know?
yeah. Yeah, that's the whole point. Yeah, it's fun to grow things. It's great to grow things. It gives you a whole new perspective. It gives you a reason to, to wake up and see what's going on. And, you almost, when you have plants you love, you almost put them to bed when you turn the lights off or, you know, give them some coffee, nutrients. We call that coffee in the morning. Did you give the plants their coffee? It's fun. It's enjoyable. It adds a spice to life that I think a lot of people are missing out on. And
Mhm.
yeah, it's very important to it's almost like a relationship when you're really growing plants that you love. You actually develop a relationship. I know that sounds weird and it could be way out there, but I believe that to be so.
I do too. And some of my plants, I go down there and I want to tweak everything, right? Add a little of this, add a little of that. But I learned though, sometimes the best thing is to go down, take a look at everything, and everything's perfect, and just say, I think, what do they need? And then I look at them and say, really, they don't need anything. I just need to let them go. And sometimes the best thing I could do is hard for me to do, but just turn around and walk out. And I do have a relationship though. I have a chair down in my garden. Sometimes I'll just go down there and sit and watch the plants grow. And
Yeah.
it's just the stress is gone. I love just the aromatic herbs, the fruit on the vine, full spectrum light. Just the humidity is perfect. It's just a great place to be, especially in the winter here in Michigan. Um, and I do have a relationship too. Sometimes I do Briggs tests, as you know how important that is. But sometimes I'll just pick a leaf that's toward the top of the plant that's still in the light. Not down in the shade. I'll just snap off a fan leaf and just take the tip of the petiole, touch it to the end of my tongue. If it's sweet, everything's perfect. I don't need to do anything. It's making sugars. The sugars are flowing, right? But if it's like that, it's a little bit
Uh-huh.
astringent, kind of pucker up a little bit. I'll adjust my potassium to nitrate ratio to try to bring the bring the sugars up. So it literally is a relationship. See it, smell it, taste it,
That's
and
right.
make it, but knowing enough to work with the plants to help them reach their genetic potential. Hopefully,
Yeah,
reach their
yeah,
genetic potential.
yeah. I like to feed them some music once in a while. Have the music going
Okay.
for them. I don't want them to get bored. Get them dancing a little bit. Well, those are some
I
good
just
stories. I like this. This was fun.
Yeah, I think that they enjoy my company when I'm down there too, but as much as I enjoy theirs. So see there, that's not very scientific, but again, that's just part of being involved in being part of the grow, part of the experience and expression of life.
Yep, it brings enjoyment, makes you happy, puts a smile on your face, and it always keeps you thinking.
And
Always
we can
does.
grow the best of the best for ourselves and to share with our friends and family. And that's
That's true.
improve the nutritional value of food, improve the medicinal qualities of our medicinal and culinary herbs.
Good point. Good point.
I think
Well, we could
are we
talk
out of
about this
time? How are
stuff
we
all
doing?
day. Yeah, we got to wrap it up here. And so, once again, always a pleasure. I'll take care of the stuff we talked about earlier. And
Okay.
yeah, give Sue our best. It's been a while since I've seen you two, so give her our best.
Okay. Will do. Catch up with you next week. Pleasure as always.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out.
Okay, bye.
Bye bye.